Hello, I'm Michael Popove. Coming up on Week in Review, the City of Medicine Hat fires the contractor working on the 2nd Street upgrades, and a verdict was handed down in the aggravated assault trial of 3 Medicine Hat police officers. Those stories and more on Week in Review.
From the Broadcast Center in Medicine Hat, in high definition, this is Chat News Week in Review.
Welcome and thank you for joining us. We begin this week with a gaping hole in the heart of the city as infrastructure upgrades came to a sudden halt on 2nd Street. This after the city fired the contractor on Wednesday. Multiple delays are causing major frustrations with local businesses, but residents are getting frustrated as well as traffic has also been impacted. Leah Murray has more.
Let's face it, these people are behind at least a month or if not a lot more, and you know, it's pretty frustrating.
2 weeks after business owners were told work to revitalize 2nd Street was behind schedule, comes news the contractor has been fired. The latest development means further delays for a project that has already been a cause for concern for businesses in the area. Business owners we spoke with declined to go on camera, but say multiple construction delays are impacting their bottom lines. Les Schwab, the head of the City Centre Development Agency, adds most businesses in the downtown area are feeling frustrated.
It's going to be definitely tough on businesses, whether or not they can keep their doors open. And let's face it, I mean, economic times are pretty slow already.
That's not much of a surprise to Roberta Kelly. She takes her mom to do her banking downtown and says the construction has made that process much more difficult.
You have to go roundabout in circles to get to point B, and it's a hassle, a big hassle.
Other residents are also frustrated with the construction congestion in the area and say it's something that has and may continue to keep them away from spending time downtown.
Yes, it's been way more difficult to find a parking spot and just inconvenient.
Firing the contractor means the completion date for the upgrades has been pushed back by at least a month. The city estimates it may not be complete until the end of October. Dave Panabaker says discussions are underway to find a new contractor to take over the work.
We will be working with replacement contractors over the next week or so to ensure that activity does not diminish.
Panabaker says he's optimistic that businesses and residents will have streetfront access to the downtown storefronts before winter officially hits. Leah Murray, Chat News.
And city officials say of the 4 companies that bid on the 2nd Street project, the 3 losing bids were all from local contractors. Well, the Medicine Hat advantage is something the city has enjoyed for over 100 years. Property taxes and utilities among the lowest in Canada. But there's a new reality with the low price of oil and gas. And now it seems the city council is going to have to face some tough decisions that voters may not like. Falling revenue from oil and gas has left a $16 million hole in the City of Medicine Hat's budget. Combine that with costly expenses like the Family Leisure Centre expansion project, and it's an economic equation Bill Cox says doesn't quite add up.
The biggest gap that we see is that natural gas production is unable to contribute the very hefty dividend that it has always contributed.
And after the city released its second quarter financial update this week, Brian Mestel says the dividend is forecast to drop from $20 million last year to just over $4 million this year.
Commodity prices are driving that, and on our electric generation, pricing is lower than it was last year there as well. So in all sectors of the energy business, it's lower.
City officials say to make up that shortfall, property tax increases could be on the table. As well, cutting city services is being considered. Mayor Ted Clarkson says a user pay model for some services is also being looked at.
Right now, transit only covers about 20% of its costs, even though you go swimming at the leisure center and you maybe think that you're paying the full price, but you're really only covering maybe 30% of the cost. So some of those things we may have to raise the user fees on those. Other costs the city is facing is paying for flood mitigation to protect Medicine Hat from future flooding. That's now expected to cost over $50 million. But when it comes to paying for other projects like the Canalta Centre, the city is having to dip into its reserve fund. The reserves weren't earning very much, to tell you the truth. We are very restricted in what we can invest in. We're earning that 2% rate of return. So we've invested that money back into the community.
Senior administration officials have spent a lot of time looking at the city's financial challenges and say no one solution will fix these long-term problems. But it'll be up to City Council to make some tough decisions on raising taxes and cutting services that may not be popular with voters. Alberta's finance minister painting a grim picture this week as he released the NDP government's first quarterly financial update. A record expense forecast of $50.2 billion and a $5.9 billion deficit for 2015-2016, just some of the projections from Joe Ceci. But as Leah Murray reports, those numbers could climb even higher.
Dry conditions in the province are having a big impact on Alberta's bottom line. It's one of the main highlights that was presented by Alberta Finance Minister Joe Ceci in the 2015-2016 first quarter fiscal update.
This summer, the government also experienced higher than anticipated disaster relief costs to fight wildfires and support farmers dealing with drought conditions.
The Disaster Assistance Fund has gone up by $456 million to $725 million, with the biggest contributors being $350 million due to the agricultural disaster and another $300 million for wildfires. Operating expenses in general are up $1.4 billion from the March forecast, due mainly to a reversal of the previous government's planned healthcare levy and increased education costs.
Our government moved quickly to return stability to our healthcare, invest in education, and protect core services that families rely on.
On the other side, the province's revenue is expected to increase by $1 billion, with revenue for the year forecast at $44.3 billion. Income taxes were up $248 million, along with corporate taxes up $249 million. Stronger than expected resource royalties brought in $710 million more, with oil pegged at just under $56 US per barrel. However, Ceci says if tanking commodity prices persist, the deficit could grow to more than $6.5 billion.
The last month has been volatile for the energy sector. A revised forecast and economic outlook will be presented with our budget in October, but it is clear that the revenues have dipped even further these past weeks.
Cypress Medicine Hat MLA Drew Barnes says he's concerned with the increasing deficit and says the government will need to make some drastic changes within their own ranks to keep that number from skyrocketing.
Protect frontline workers, protect the first level of management, and then eliminate a lot of that high-level bureaucracy.
Ceci didn't provide any details on how the government would be making cuts to spending and said a provincial sales tax is off the table, but they may look at raising other taxes to make up for the deficit in the coming budget. Leah Murray, Chat News.
As students in Medicine Hat head back to school, administrators and teachers both are trying to their best to help children succeed in the classroom. But with an unsteady economy and many people facing job losses due to the slowed oil and gas sector, some are wondering what kind of impact that'll have on education. Leah Murray reports.
A new school year is a time to start fresh with a new set of clothes and perfectly sharpened pencils. But not all families have the benefit of being able to afford all the brand new back-to-school merchandise.
Compared to the province, we have more kids in our district and down in this area that would come from a lower socioeconomic grouping.
The downturn in the economy has resulted in a loss of jobs for many Albertans, with more than 51,000 receiving EI benefits as of June. The principal at Elm Street School believes this may affect students as parents have less disposable income for school supplies.
I think that will play a role. Luckily, we have a lot of organizations in the city who are ready to help our kids with meeting their needs.
Elm Street School is used to rolling with the punches, whether the economy is booming or in the midst of a bust, as the school has one of the lowest socioeconomic brackets in the province. In spite of that, Weeks says their students see great success in the classroom, in part because it's not something they focus on.
The first and most important thing is that you believe in those students, and research will show you what a difference that makes when they're surrounded by supportive adults that believe that they can be successful.
Lyle Cunningham with School District 76 says Weeks has gone above and beyond her job description to ensure the students at Elm Street have the same opportunities, if not more, than others in the city. Elm Street has partnered with Medelta, Medicine Hat College, and the city, amongst others, to help enhance the curriculum.
All those kind of paint a picture of quite pretty unique support for those kids down there.
Last year, our students built a mini city, and it was displayed at City Hall, and they even had the chance to go into the mayor's office.
But Weeks doesn't do it alone. She says a roster of dedicated teachers and support staff make all the difference in each child's individual success. Despite the economy and the socioeconomic challenges faced by some families at the school, Weeks says she's confident this school year will be a great one for all the students at Elm Street. Leah Murray, Chat News.
All right, please stay with us. Still to come, the 3 Medicine Hat police officers charged with aggravated assault learn their fate. We'll have that story and more coming up after the break. Welcome back. Not guilty. That was the verdict in the case of 3 Medicine Hat police officers charged with aggravated assault. Constables David Harisic, Robert Angstad, and Mark Seiler were all charged in connection with the 2012 arrest of James Halcrow at the Cecil Hotel. But the judge did find one of the officers, Constable Robert Angstad, guilty on the lesser charge of assault. Now, Harisic and Seiler will return to regular duty immediately, but it's not clear if Angstad will be relieved of his duties after his 30-day appeal process is over. Police Chief Andy McGrogan says they're still trying to digest everything that's happened.
I care about our community, I care about our police service, and I care about the officers. A lot of times we have events that occur that we wish didn't occur, whether we're right or not. I worry about our service and how it affects them. And of course, our reputation with the community is we can't police unless we have the community support.
And Constable Angstad's lawyer says he is not sure if he will appeal the verdict. That decision will be made after sentencing on November the 10th. A joint investigation involving several law enforcement agencies, including the Medicine Hat Police Service, has ended in the arrest of 8 Alberta men now charged with child sexual exploitation. 6 of the men are from Calgary. The other 2 are from Sherwood Park and Chipman. The Internet Child Exploitation Unit made the arrests after a 7-month investigation. 85 computers and electronic devices were seized. Investigators have analyzed 4 terabytes of data. Around 100,000 photos and videos of children being exploited were found. Officers say the victims in the photos are as young as 6 months old. The men are not to believe to have abused the children directly, but investigators say they're still a big part of the problem.
In my opinion, there's really no difference. When you're creating the demand for this type of material, you are essentially aiding in that predator creating the supply. So if the demand is out there, there's going to be the supply.
And investigators believe that none of the victims are from Alberta. A 54-year-old Medicine Hat man has been charged with aggravated assault after police were called to the 700 block of 8th Street Southeast last Saturday. Officers arrived on scene to find a break-and-enter in progress. They also found a 42-year-old man outside the apartment building suffering from serious injuries. They say those injuries were the result of a fall from the 3rd-story balcony. Staff Sergeant Joe West says Major Crimes has been called in to handle the case.
They found a male victim there who appeared to have fallen quite a distance from the building, and our investigation is still underway. However, we have determined that a fall was caused by another male.
Andrew Venn has been charged with 1 count of aggravated assault. He's been released on bail. The town of Birstall is in shock after a teenage boy and his grandfather were killed in a farming accident. The tragedy has hit the close-knit community hard. While there are no words to describe how residents are coping, instead, there's only tears and prayers.
Absolutely everybody in the community is devastated. Just can't believe that this little boy and his grandfather are gone.
The community of Birstall is reeling after a 62-year-old man and his grandson died while unloading a grain trailer near the Alberta-Saskatchewan border on Monday. And a close friend of the boy's family says no one can believe they are gone.
It's a horrible, horrible thing. I don't even know how to say how I feel. Empty. It's just a disaster.
It happened 16 kilometers east of Birstall. Police confirm 14-year-old Lane Langridge was sitting on the top ledge of a grain trailer when he fell into the hopper that was full of wheat. His grandfather, Dennis Becker, jumped in and tried to save the boy. Lane's dad was also there, grabbed Dennis, but lost his grip. The pair suffocated. Gary Huber says his friend Dennis was a great man who will be dearly missed by the community.
I was crying. I couldn't hardly talk because I knew him well.
Tuesday would have been Lane's first day at Fox Valley High School. Instead, counselors have been called in to provide support to students there, as well as for students in Birstall and Leader. The town is understandably devastated, and while the family has asked for privacy, the people we spoke to say they want to help in any way possible. They also say it's just too soon in the grieving process to decide exactly what that help will look like. As for how to start dealing with this tragedy, grief counselors will be brought in for the entire town starting this weekend. While few people in town can put their grief into words, the support for Dennis and Lane's family is clear.
Oh, Angie Nelson, I'm so sad for you guys. I don't know how something like this could have happened. I don't know.
Michael Popove, Chat News. All right, please do stay tuned. Coming up, the 19 recruits from the Medicine Hat Police Cadet Training Program graduate after 17 grueling weeks. We'll have that story after the break. Welcome back. New real estate numbers were released this week, and for the 5th straight month, home sales in Medicine Hat have fallen compared to last year. And as Matt Nemeth reports, when you factor in just how much money that represents, the numbers are significant.
More than $55 million less in real estate has been sold this year in Medicine Hat compared to this same time in 2014. Medicine Hat Real Estate Board President Gloria Blukins says the decline is a reflection of how people are currently feeling.
Last year, people kind of started to take a more aggressive approach and feel a little bit more confident. This year, things have kind of slowed down again as people are sitting back and waiting to see what's going to happen.
What people are watching is the economy, which has nosedived drastically since January. Although the number of sales is down by over 200 on the year, Blukins says prices aren't, which is a good sign.
Right now, the values are staying steady. They're not dropping, even though there's maybe some scary things happening in our economy. We're still kind of holding steady.
Chief economist for ATB Financial, Todd Hirsch, says that's consistent with what we've been seeing across the province.
If it's the number of sales that is down and not necessarily the price that's down, that is also a reflection of a softer economy. People are a little bit more hesitant to purchase, so we're seeing fewer sales.
Another stat that's down this year is new home construction sales in Medicine Hat. There are 20 fewer so far, but Sherry Brost of home builder Brost Developments says their company has been able to maintain consistently healthy levels, thanks in large part to an increase in work outside of the city.
Areas such as Dunmore, Cypress County and beyond has become a greater building ground for us.
Brost also says they're now building for a more diverse group of people. But in the end, an over $55 million decrease in real estate sales so far affects those doing the selling most.
You've got quite a few realtors out there trying to make a living as well and try to keep their head above board. But it is making it a little bit harder for the realtors out there in order to make a living.
Matt Nemeth, Chat News.
Do you have a news tip? Visit our website, chattelevision.ca, and click on Submit a Tip. You can even send pictures and video, and we'll give you the credit. Simply fill out the form and submit. All tips go directly to Chat News. Chat News, connected to you.
Finally this week, we've come to the last installment in our series looking at the police recruit training program being conducted here in Medicine Hat. It's the first program of its kind in Alberta, as 21 cadets were chosen from all across Canada. Not everyone was able to complete the 17 weeks of intense training, but for those who did graduate, it was a challenge that changed every one of them.
Get him into custody. Come on, Chan. Control the motor control, Chan.
For 17 weeks, they pushed themselves to the limit, battling injuries, mental and physical exhaustion. They started out as a group of 21, all putting their lives on hold, all for the chance to realize their dream. 19 made it right to the very end of the police cadet training program, graduating in front of police officers, family, and friends.
It's been extremely draining, and I'm sure my husband has definitely noticed that. Come home kind of like a zombie and just not all there, just facing a lot of internal struggles and physical struggles.
Really incredible dedication on their part. You know, like it was a 17-week trial for them.
After 680 hours of classroom instruction, 42,000 rounds of ammunition, and nearly 3,000 miles of running on their own time, the recruits received their diplomas in conjunction with the Lethbridge College Criminal Justice Policing Program.
It was difficult. It was a roller coaster ride. There was some days where you just weren't sure how you were going to get up the next day to go again.
For the now Constable Jared Biggs with the Canadian Pacific Police Force, graduation was a chance to follow in his father's footsteps.
I would say this will be one of those moments that you remember forever.
I'm extremely proud of my son. I know he worked hard to get his badge today.
And for the co-valedictorian of the graduating class, the mere mention of the name Constable Martin O'Donnell makes going through the last 17 weeks even more rewarding.
Hang on. Got the chills. You get the chills. To be a member of this service would be a dream come true.
So now the recruits will go their separate ways. Most of the constables with Canadian Pacific are headed to Calgary to begin an exciting new chapter in their lives. But it's bittersweet.
I think the friendships that I've made during this time have been, they're set in stone.
You proud of yourself?
Absolutely.
As for the Medicine Hat police recruits, all they can do is sit and wait until September the 8th. That's when they find out which of the 11 cadets will get the 8 available jobs.
Such a great opportunity thrown your way. And, just overcoming it all. I came in kind of as an underdog, I think, and just gave it everything I had.
So while the recruit training program has come to an end, the sense of pride and accomplishment is evident. However, for those who are now prepared to protect, it hasn't hit home quite yet.
My first shift, when I get in the car and close that door for the first time, I'll probably have a little glance up in the rearview mirror there and be like, okay, it's for real now.
Michael Popove, Chat News. And that's all the time we have this week. Please join us weekdays for the Chat News at noon and at 5:30. Thank you for watching and have a safe Labor Day long weekend.